The Happytime Murders. This movie stars Melissa McCarthy, Leslie David Baker's in there, John McHale, Elizabeth Banks, and then a lot of Maya Rudolph as well, and then a lot of puppets. That's what this movie is. This movie basically follows the Happytime Murders. This is a TV show called The Happytime Gang, and pretty much someone is picking them off one by one, and that is why it's The Happytime Murders. And the main character, Phil Phillips, the main puppet in this movie, is a detective, and his brother was in one of the actors in the Happytime Gang, so he gets dragged back into the force after some stuff goes down with his ex-partner, Melissa McCarthy, and they have to come back together to try to stop the killer. Now, this is kind of a controversial movie because it is puppets, and they got in trouble with Sesame Street because Sesame Street's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I think the director of this movie is actually behind a big puppeting company that I'm really not familiar with, so I can't tell you in depth with that. But this movie, from the trailer, you know what expecting. It's going to be a raunchy, adult kind of movie with puppets, and that's kind of a novelty to me. I think I didn't really care too much about when they focused on the puppets. When they just bring him in, like Phil Phillips, he didn't feel like a puppet at times, which I think was a good thing. They didn't make him go, oh, you're a puppet, you're a puppet, you're a puppet. It was just like, no, you're a character, and the rest of the world is puppets, and blah, 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 which I thought was fine. And when they really focused on puppet sense humor, it didn't work for me, and that's the biggest thing for this movie. The humor didn't work, in my opinion. I didn't really laugh that much. Probably the jokes I laughed at the most were the ones in the trailer, which is kind of shitty, but there's a few fucked up things in this movie, and of course, but the thing I did like about this movie, the murder mystery aspect of the movie, I did enjoy. I can't lie, I didn't have a half bad time watching that bit of the movie, trying to figure out who the killer was, or like figure the links, stuff like that. I enjoyed that part of the movie. It did work for me. Then, obviously it's going to rely on the humor, and that didn't, so that kind of cancels out each other. And then the characters are fine. I think Phil Phillips works fine. Melissa McCarthy's okay. Maya Rudolph's character's alright. Some of the characters, the puppets, yeah, whatever. It's fine. It really is. This movie's just fine for me. It could have been a lot funnier. It should have been a lot funnier, in my opinion. A lot of the jokes, I didn't think they try to blend them into the storyline, which is usually a good thing. But when they're not funny, it kind of just ruins the storyline. So I would have rather them taking some cheap jokes and made them work, because I think the ones that I did laugh at were the cheap, shitty jokes. They didn't work all the time, but the most part, if I'm splitting up the jokes by shitty and storyline jokes, I'm probably laughing at a high percentage of shitty jokes. Now, I'm not saying I laughed at a high percentage of any jokes, but for that sense, it could have done it could have been funnier and kind of maybe cheapened it a little bit. A lot of people could say they're cheap anyway, but this movie's pretty much exactly what you expect from the trailer. I think the trailer gives too much away, which I didn't like, because as I said, the funniest stuff I think is in the trailer. So I'd avoid that if you know what you're seeing. Obviously, if you don't want to see it, you don't know what it's about, probably check out the trailer. I suppose you have to, but, I think the murder mystery part works around it well. I think Phil Phillips, the character, the puppet, works well. I feel the puppets don't really work for me. They're just too over-the-top generic, and I know that's what puppet is, but it's a movie, man. I'm not asking for a puppet. You're the one that wanted to commit to this puppet and make me laugh, and you didn't. So this movie is fine. I probably won't die to see it again, but I think the murder mystery aspect, as I said, is the best part of the movie, and the only part I'd say is decent. So I'm giving this movie a C. What did you guys think about Happytime Murders? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever, you let me know below. Comment, like, subscribe if you haven't already. Got plenty of reviews coming. This is a big September coming up. I had a decent big August as well, but a lot of movies coming out in September, so stay tuned for that. Blu-ray updates, Blu-ray videos, all this stuff coming at you quick, so stay subscribed. But of course, guys, have a good one.